Hi, I'm Kelly from Jewellery, and I am currently running 40% off all the tutorials that I sell on my Etsy shop. So that is 40% off all tutorials. So this is a little look at Etsy. If you click on tutorials, it gives you all of them. So there they are, 40% off, and I'll be doing that for next week as well. And there's 20% off the jewellery if you fancy any of the jewellery on there. So let's have a look. There's another page. So there's quite a lot to choose from. Please don't forget to tag me on Facebook or Instagram so I can see all your finished work that you make from my tutorials. And that's everything. Thanks for looking, guys. See you soon. Bye. Hi, I'm Kelly from Jewellery. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this pendant. It's huge, isn't it? There's a list in the description below of everything you'll need to make this, along with all the usual links. We've got Facebook and Instagram on there, and there's my Etsy shop where I sell my written tutorials. When you're sharing your work online made from my tutorials, please mention me, a Kelly Jones design, and please don't show images of the back as it gives the design away. So thanks everybody. To make this pendant you'll need 0.8mm wire, which is 20 gauge, and I've got 5 lengths at 18 inches, which is 46 centimetres. You'll need 0.315mm weaving wire, 28 gauge. You'll need about, I reckon, about 400 centimetres if your stone is as big as mine. So I've wound mine onto bobbin. This is a Bobeeze bobbin by Beadsmith. If you don't have one, you can just cut lengths as you go. This is just to stop the wire from flailing about while you're weaving when you're working with the longer lengths. So I'm today going to be using this huge stone. I absolutely love this stone, so I'm going to have a go at wrapping it, and I'm going to do a lot of weaving. So we've got a very therapeutic one today if you fancy just sitting and weaving and just losing yourself in your weaving for a few hours. If your stone is smaller than mine, then you probably get the job done a lot quicker. Just reduce your wire lengths, and obviously your weave repeats. So sort of any sort of size round stone will work this. You can adapt it to be with a teardrop stone, but that's up to you. So we've got pliers, round nose pliers, wire cutters, nylon pliers. Don't worry if you don't have any nylon pliers. I just like to have these handy for straightening wires and flattening weaves. So if you haven't got them, then it doesn't matter. So I think that's everything. If I do add anything on the way, I'll write it on the screen now. And let's get started. So I'm going to start 6 inches from the beginning of the wires. I'm going to start weaving. So we're going to be weaving across all 5 wires. So have a look at your wires and spread them out. Try and spread them out evenly the best you can, so that when we're weaving, the wires are nice and spread out so we can get between them. It's hard to show you being this close to you. So they will keep moving and we'll have to keep adjusting them, and working with long wires is a nightmare. But I thought I'd do something different for a change. I fancy doing a bit of weaving. So there we have it, 5. So we're going to weave across 5 wires. So take your weaving wire and we're going to start with 3 wraps around the bottom wire. So we'll go once around the bottom 2 wires. We're going to have to constantly keep adjusting these wires. Once around the bottom 2, once around the bottom 3, come up between the bottom 2, then we'll go once around the middle 3, come up between the bottom 2, once around the top 2, at the top, all over the top, So we've gone all around those top 4 wires. Come up between the bottom 2 again. Go around the middle 3 again. Under the bottom wire, over the 3rd. Under the bottom wire, over the 2nd wire. And then we wrap around the bottom wire 3 times. So that's our weave. So we're doing these lovely little fan shapes over the 5 wires. So do you want me just to do that again? You can always skip if you don't need to see it. So we go around 2, go around 3, come up between the bottom 2, go around the middle 3, up between the bottom 2, over the top, between the middle 2, the bottom 2, over the 4th wire, so we're going around the middle 3, under the bottom wire, over the 3rd, under the bottom wire, over the 2nd, and then we wrap around the bottom wire 3 times. I'm really pleased I've managed to do that with these great big long wires so close to the camera. There we go. So that's 2 repeats. So now you just need to sit and relax and weave, and we're going to do quite a lot of these. I'm going to do quite a lot to get around that great big huge stone. If you're using a smaller stone, then you won't need to do as many. So just enjoy and relax and have a weave for a while, and I shall see you in a bit. So I've just kept repeating that weave, and as you weave you must remember to keep compressing your weave together to keep it tidy. So the amount of weaves that you need to do depends on the size of your stone, so you can guess it by putting your stone in the middle of your weave and just looking, thinking, is it going to go all the way around? And when you think you've got the right amount, because we can add more weaves in a bit, we'll wrap it around the stone. What I like to do as well when we're weaving is with nylon pliers, I just flatten it down, just makes it nice and flat. Don't know if you can see the difference. I like the look of the flatter weave. So I'm going to flatten all that down, then I'm going to cut the tail end off of the weaving wire from the beginning. And then I'm going to have a go at bending the weave around the stone, and then I'll probably have to add more repeats. Always remember to flatten down any sharp bits, any cut ends, so we don't have any sharp bits sticking out. So that's what I've got so far. So starting in the middle, and I'm keeping the weave up the right way, I'm just going to start to put a gentle bend into this weave, and if you do it in little movements you're less likely to make big mistakes. Do a little bit at a time. You can always straighten it out and redo it. I'm just trying to get it to go into a gentle curve so it'll reach around my stone. And I need it to, it's not going to sit flat. I want it to come over the stone because it's going to hold the stone in from the front. So we want to come over the edge of the stone. So as you can see, I've got quite a lot of weaving left to do. So you need to keep adding weave repeats until you wrap your weave around your stone and it all comes together and it meets at the top. So I have added some repeats to my weave. So this is all we do really, we just keep adding a few and then measuring it back around the stone to see if it fits. So this needs to go around coming over the front of the stone a little. And as you can see, I'm nearly there. I just need to add a couple more. We need those weaves to meet. And it's best, this is on a flat surface. If you push it down so it's touching the flat surface, you know it's going to be flush with the back of the stone. We need to keep the weave down so we know we can finish it off at the back right. But your weave definitely needs to come over the front of the stone so it holds it in from the front. If your stone is much thicker than mine, you may need to use more wires, so then you'll just have to adapt that little weave to add the extra wires. So I need to just add a few more repeats to that. So I've added about another 5 repeats, I think. And it looks like my weaves are going to meet now. So I'm going to take the end wires that haven't got the weaving wire attached, and I want to bend it straight up. And I must emphasise how important it is to keep pushing the weave together as you go. So I have pushed it together with my pliers all the way to try and keep, and it's still slid a little bit. So I'm just going to make sure that that's all properly around. And I'm going to bend this side up. So this is the side with the wire. We can make sure now that it's going to fit. It goes all the way around. So as you can see, my wires are bent a little bit strange because I have been adjusting it and readjusting it to try and get the shape right. And then my weaving wire broke, so I had to undo a few repeats to add my weaving wire back in. So I'm not perfect. I just want you all to know that I make mistakes as well. So when you've got your shapes how you want it to be and you've pushed all that weave right down, we're now going to weave across the top part. So take your 2 outer wires and bend those to the back. We won't be using those. And on this side, 2 outer wires, take them to the back. We won't be using those either. So we're going to be weaving across these 6 wires and we want to pull them together. So that's what I've got so far, and I'm now going to weave across those middle wires. So take your weaving wire. We're going to have to go around these just to get past them, get them out the way, and then come up between. So I've gone around the first 2 and come up between, even though then push to the back. On my screen, the light really makes these wires look quite golden. So we need to get to that middle wire down there. So I'm going to go over the next two and come up between them. And then over the next two. And then come up between those two. So now I'm positioned at the front there. So to match it up, I'm now going to do this weave across the other 3 wires. So we go over. Now the idea is for this to pull it all together, and we're going to try and push it down as far as we can. So we go over the next wire and come up underneath. So we've come underneath that top wire, so we've come between those middle wires. It's a little bit awkward to start with, and the wires are going to keep moving around, especially if you're heavy-handed like me. But then after we've done a few repeats and got everything together, it'll all suddenly become a lot easier, she says. So then we go over the next wire, come up between those two, and we go over the next wire and come up between those two, wrap around the top wire, and come up between. If I'm looking at the top 3, we've come up between the bottom 2. Then we're going to wrap around that second wire and come up underneath the bottom one. Then we wrap around the bottom wire. Now we're working on these other 3 wires. We come up between the top 2. I'm going to say it like that so it's easier to see and easier to say. So we're looking at these 3 wires now. We're going to go around the top one, come up between the bottom 2, go around the second wire, go around the bottom wire, I'm going to pull these wires out to the sides just because I'm working so close to the camera. It's hard to get close enough to show you what I'm doing. Just strapping all these wires together at the moment. So make sure that your weave is pushed right down. And we're now going to weave over just these 2 wires here. So we're going to go around the bottom wire 5 times. Then we go around both wires twice. So that's how we repeat 5 times. That's crazy. 5 times around the bottom wire. 5. And then wrap twice around both wires. And keep pushing your weave together as you go. And I forgot to mention we're going to need some bail pliers. So I'll add that at the beginning. So we need to keep adding repeats to that weave. So I've done 12 repeats of that weave, and you must keep pushing your weave together as you go to keep it all nice. So I'm going to cut the weaving wire but I'm going to leave a little bit of wire still attached in case I need to add or take a few weaves. And then I'm going to use this because it's still got the bobbin on the end, and we're going to do the same weave across the other two wires on the other side there. So these two wires, we're going to do just a mirror of this weave. So we need to add 5 wraps to that top wire. Oh, it's gonna stop me, I know it. Right, that's Gracie chewing on a pig's ear, if you can hear loads of noise. 2, 3, 4, 5 wraps around the top wire. Slide it down. And that wire needs to be pulled through so it's next to the weave there. So 5 wraps around that top wire, and then 2 wraps around both wires, come up between those 2 wires, and that's our repeat. To make it a little bit easier, we can turn it over. And we're now weaving across these bottom 2 wires. So we want to go 5 repeats, 5 wraps around the bottom wire, 2 wraps around both, and we need to do the same amount that you did for the other side, so we've got to do 12 repeats. So I've done the 12 repeats on that side, and keep pushing your weave together to keep it nice and tidy. Again, I'm going to leave a little bit of wire attached. We'll probably just cut these off. But you know what I'm like for changing my mind? I might want to change it towards the end. Might want to add more or take them away. And you may want to change this design at some point, because you can do whatever you like with these wires. So now we're going to weave across the middle 2 wires. Just going to pull them forward a bit to make it a bit easier. So take your weaving wire and wrap twice around one of the wires to attach. And slide it down into place. Do is sliding it right the way down there. Just going to wriggle it down with pliers. That's Gracie making all the noise. So now we're going to weave just across these middle 2. We're going to go over and around that top wire. So go over the wire, come up between the 2, then we go over the top wire, come underneath the bottom, and we go around the bottom wire, and that's our repeat. Just want to push that down. So we go around both wires, bring your wire up between the 2 wires, go around the top wire, and then go around the bottom wire, and that's a repeat, and keep repeating that with you. So I just wanted to let you know that I've just finished a written tutorial for this pendant. A written tutorial is when you get like loads of pages. It's like a digital book really, so you get loads of pages with loads of pictures that you follow along, so you can do it all at your own pace, take your time. This particular one is 75 pages. It's got 400 images on there, and so that's all fully described, and I describe it as if you're a beginner. So I would say this is for a late beginner to early intermediate, because it is a little bit tricky to get the wires around the thicker wires sometimes. But it is a good challenge if you do fancy a challenge, and we do attach that little stone in there sparkling away. So if you fancy giving it a go, that's my latest written tutorial, and I'm currently running a 40% off all my tutorials on my Etsy shop. So thanks for looking, guys. So I've kept repeating that middle weave, and I've stopped before I've reached the length of the other weaves, and keep pushing it down and compressing it together as you go. What we're going to do with these side weaves now is you have to envisage the centre point of that weave, and we're going to bend these weaves kind of around the centre point, so they come in like that, and do the same for this one. So you can guess what I'm going to do here. So both the weaves join like this, so we've got like a nice curve. Like that. And then we're going to pinch the wires all together at the top, and we're going to bend them back out. So they all meet together at the top there. So this is the point where you can add or take weave repeats if you want to. So you just want all your weaves to meet up there. So keep pushing your weaves down so that they all meet at the top. And when you're happy that they all meet, we can cut off these little lengths, the smaller lengths from the outer weaves. So when you've got, after you've cut off your wires and you've adjusted it so you've got a shape like this, we're now going to weave across all of the wires just to tie it together at the top. So I've just brought the wire underneath these bottom two wires on this side. Same weave as we did at the very bottom. Need to cut those two, so cut those two tail ends off as well from the beginning there. So we go around the two wires, come up between those two. And we go around the next two wires. Gracie's really making a noise today. And come up between those two. Around the next two wires and come up between those two. Around the next two. So all the way up, we just do the same thing, around two, up between those two. Then on the way back down, we go around each wire individually. So we go around that top wire, bringing the wire up underneath the next one, around that one, bringing the wire up underneath, ready for the next wire, around that one, around the next one, come up between the bottom two, and go around the second one and around the bottom wire, and squash all that down together. So this weird little woven thing at the top is going to be our veil. So just have a look at your weave and make sure you haven't misshaped it. It needs to be at this angle. I can't believe how much noise Grace is making. So it sits there and it's not falling through the front. So looking at the back, that's how it sits, Gracie. So now we need to shape this bail. Have you finished making all that noise now? Oh yeah. Are you wagging your bum? You're a funny girl. So I'm going to do one more repeat of this big weave across all the wires, just so it holds it securely. So I've done another repeat of that big weave, and it's so much easier weaving over these shorter wires. I'm going to just wrap around a few times of that bottom wire, just to secure that in place. And now we're going to bend this over to make our bail. So I'm going to need some bail pliers. And grip it centrally, and we're going to bend that right over the centre. But as you do, take your middle two wires and scoop them around, because they're coming through the middle as you bend this over. These two wires come through the middle. So you bend it all the way over. Hard to show you now with all the wires all sticking out everywhere. And Gracie's making loads more noise. But these two wires have come through the middle. Then we've got 4 wires going down the back, 4 wires coming out of the sides. Pull these two at the front forward and up, straight up that middle section, and that will hold that top in place for now. Bit of a crazy one for you this week, but there you go. So these 2 wires that have just come through to the front, separate them so they come up either side like this, and then reposition your bail pliers and these 2 wires are going to go over the bail pliers in that gap either side and over to the back. At the back, we're going to cross them over so they meet at the bottom there. And then where they meet, if I can turn all this around, so where they meet, and that's really awkward holding the pliers with that hand, we're going to bend them back out. So we're going to pinch it a little bit. I'm going to have them next to each other like this. And then we're going to weave across the middle 4 just to hold them in place. So this one's ended up being a lot more detailed than I thought it was going to be. If you would like to do a design similar to this with a different bail that's got a stone in the front, I actually have done a tutorial for that. I've written a tutorial for that. So if you want to go and check that out, I will put a link below, and I'll put a picture of it on the screen now so you can see. And it's called Kiwi, and I absolutely love it. And when I first made it, the very first one I made, I kept for myself. So that's how much I love that one. So it's similar to this one because it's got the weave going around it. So now I'm going to weave across the middle 4. It's So I'm going to undo these 3 weaves here, because that was just to hold the weave while we bent it over. Got to be careful not to bend your weave, your wire, not to break your wire. So we go, where are we? We're coming out of the bottom there. So we go around the 2 and up between to get into position. Then we go around those middle 2 wires 3 times. Come up between that wire and go around the top 2 wires. Just to hold it in place. Go around the top wire of the middle 2, around the bottom one. So you can tie these together however you like. And then underneath between the bottom 2, we go around those 2 wires. So it's all tied together. And then we go around, back around this bottom 2 wires, and we go 3 times around that wire. So we have got still quite a bit of weaving to do in today's pendant. So now we're going to weave just across these 2 wires. So we've got 3 wraps around that bottom wire there. I'm going to go 2 wraps around both wires, and then we'll go 5 wraps around that bottom wire. So we've got the same weave as we did earlier. Try and keep the same weave throughout, I reckon. And then 2 wraps. So we've got 2 wraps, 5 wraps around the bottom wire. And we need to keep repeating that. And we're going to bring the weave around to the side to here. So we need to put weave repeats all the way to there on that side bit. These are our back supports for the stone now. So I've kept repeating that weave, and if you pop your stone in, remembering this is the back, so you need to pop your stone in front facing. So I'm now looking at the back. This weave needs to scoop around to meet the side there, because that's going to hold in the stone at that side point. So imagine the sort of centre side position, and that's where your weave's going to come to for holding in the stone. So we're going to leave that there for now, and we're going to leave enough weaving wire so we can attach that on shortly. So then take the rest of your weaving wire, and we're going to do the same on this side. So to copy that, we want, needs pushing along a little bit. We want 5 wraps around the top wire, followed by 2 wraps around both wires, and then do the same here, here. So I've added those weaves to that side and shaped it. So I've got a weave on both sides, reaching to the more or less the centre point on both sides. And keep checking that your stone fits as well, making sure you've got the back facing you. So now I'm going to cut this wire, leaving a little bit still attached, just so I haven't got the bobbin keep swinging around my legs. And we are going to attach it now. Need to cut off any tail ends that are loose, that are still attached on there. So now we're going to attach to this side bit here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to attach this weave to this big weave here. If you can see a gap, if you can get your wire through that gap, then do that. If you can't, then you just need to, you just got a little pin off the notice board, so you just need to make a gap just big enough to fit that fine weaving wire through. And then take your wire through there and we'll attach it to that side, that big weave. So I've pulled the wire through the weave, and you need to go around a few times really. So bring your wire back up to the back, go around both wires. So I've wrapped around one of the wires. You can do, obviously you can do whatever you like here. We just got to attach it with a few wraps to that big wire because this will hold our stone in, and then we need to post it back through to the outer side and go around again so it's all nice and secured. So here we're going to bend the weave down, so I'm going to wrap around both wires a couple of times and then around that top wire a couple of times. And to try and speed up the video, you've got to do this on the other side as well, and I won't go through it all again step by step because it's going to take forever. So we've joined it on, and now I'm going to bend it down to finish it off to hold the wires, to hold the stone in place, sorry. So we've joined it on, we bend it down, put the stone in. Another thing that might happen is this might come a bit close here. You might struggle to get your stone in. So we're going to bend this wire around. I just want something to lean on. And I'm just going to add a few coils to this top wire. So I've added a few coils, cut off my wire, press the sharp bit down, and that's that side done. So I'm going to do the same for this side, reach the edge, go around securing it a few times, add a little bit of coils around the edge and bend it in as this one has here. So I've joined it the same on that other side there. I've done a few coils, cut that off. Now these inner wires, I'm going to cut those off and just turn those into little curls, I think. So we need to cut those off like that. And this side, if I can get in there. And then these ones here, I want this one first, are going to be slightly bigger curls that come down to here. And this one, slightly bigger curl to here. Try and match them up. It's not really that important because it's the back, but we want to take our weaving wire and join them on here. So as we did before, we're going to go through the weave. So we'll have 3 wraps around the single wire. That's crazy snoring. 2 wraps around the both wires, and then 3 wraps around a single wire to join it on there. So I've done that join on both sides. cut my weaving wire. Just trying to speed things up a bit now, or this video is going to take too long. So we flatten down all the sharp bits, and then this wire. Right, you must remember, oh dear, you must remember to put your stone in before you do those last joins, otherwise it's a nightmare to try and get your stone in there and you may misshape it. So we've got these 2 wires now, so we're going to curl. These wires are going to come back around over there, and this one back around and over there. So I'll curl those in just a second, and now we've got to look at these 2 middle wires. So now we're going to do this final weave over these middle wires, and that will just finally hold the stone in place. Again, I don't want to take too much time over this weave because the video is long enough as it is. So we'll wrap a few times around this bottom wire. You can do any weave you like on these back wires, just to pin the stone down in place really. The size of this stone, I'm sure my weaves are much bigger than yours if you're using a smaller stone, so I'm going to go over the other wire and come up between, around the top wire, and then around the bottom wire. And I'm going to do that weave, that's the one we did earlier for the middle weave. I'm going to do that down to about halfway. So repeat that weave, the same one that we did here, around both wires, come up between, around the top and around the bottom wire. So I've woven halfway. Now I'm going to let the wires come apart a little, and I'm just going to do like a bail weave across these wires so I can finish them off and join them there, just to hold the bottom of the stone in. If you don't want to do that, you could just finish off your weave and attach them at the bottom there so it's less weaving. It's entirely up to you. Whatever you do decide to do, please don't show the back of this when you're sharing your work, your finished work online, as it does give the design away. I would prefer that you only share your finished work and you don't share in progress images either, and that you mention me, a Kelly Jones design. So thanks to everybody who does, and if you can do that for me, you'll get me more views, then I can keep giving you these tutorials for free. So thank you everybody in advance. So I'm going to do a little weave across these 2, just keeping the wire apart, so try not to let these 2 wires come together as you go. So go over the opposite wire, come up between the 2 wires, and we'll wrap 3 times around that wire. Then go over the opposite wire and wrap 3 times. And that's how I repeat, over the opposite wire and then wrap 3 times around it. And keep pushing your weave down as you go. So I've repeated that weave until I've got to the bottom there. Keep pushing your weave together as you go. So now I'm going to join onto the sides like we did. So I'm going to cut this wire short and I'm going to wrap around. I'm going to use my little pin to make a gap so I can get through that weave because my weave's a bit tight. And I'm going to wrap around there on that side and again on this side, attaching it on this side. So we've got to do 2 more joins. So we went through the weave and then I went through this wire, around the wire, through the weave again, and then added coils, and I did the same on this side with just a little bit of weaving wire. So we need to cut all that off, and then flatten down the ends. And then these two wires come around. So we've got lots of little curls on the back, but they'll all help to keep that stone in place. And then we want to finish that off, and that one into curls. So the back looks a little bit crazy, and I'm going to curl all those wires now so that we can see how it's going to look. So I want to curl this wire this way. You get the idea. We're just going to curl all the wires that we've cut. We're going to leave them into nice big shapy curls so that they will add to holding the stone in place like that. So I've curled those wires at the back there, and the stone's all securely in place. So now we can finally look at the front. And it's really hard to show you the whole pendant because I work so close to the camera. You can see how it's looking. See those joins a little bit, so I just need to push those wires in. So to finish off these wires at the top here, one at a time, I'm going to take these wires, I'm going to bend it the other way so it goes around. And I'm going to curve it around to the side like that. I'll do the same for the next wire. I'm wriggling it so I'm pushing it down right at the base of the wire. Then I'll curl it around. And again, it's hard to show you while I'm this close. I'm going to curl that wire around. So it goes sort of inside the previous shape. So I'm going to shape that one a bit bigger and then sit that one inside of it like that. I'm going to do that for the wires on the other side too. It's hard, so hard to show you what I'm doing while I'm so close, but I'm just going to push it around and do the same for this side. Bring these two wires around too. So shape your foot wires and really take your time. So you've got them coming around and in on both sides. And then take your time looking at it, adjusting it so that they kind of match, so that they've got the symmetry right. And then you want to scoop them out so they come out towards the edge of the weave. And then we'll have one slightly higher than the other. And then look at the shape of those wires and keep bending them and get them the shape you want them to be. Because this is a final touches really, so you have to be fussy with this part. When you're happy with those wires, those shapes, we're going to finish them off by bending them over the frame. So hold it firmly at the front in place and bend those wires over the frame. You must hold them tight so they don't move, and bend them over the frame. Do that for the other side. Hold it really tight against the frame and then bend them over the frame. Check the shaping again at the front so they're how you want them to look. So on the back now, we're going to finish off these wires around the frame. Oh, I got a little tail end there, I think. Yeah, missed a tail end. So these wires here, we're just going to cut them and press them around the side of the frame there. So again, check the shape, and then we want to press them around the side. We need to take a bit more length off those because the stone is a little bit in the way. So I'm holding the front in place. I'm just going to straighten these up a little bit, and then I'm going to squeeze them to the frame so they're pressed firmly in place. Keep checking your shape. On this side, do the same. Take a little bit off in case they're too long. Holding it in place. Press it around the frame, check the shape, and then squeeze it firmly in place. I'm just going to straighten those up a little bit. So I've decided I'm going to pop some beads on there. I've got a little bit of weaving wire. I've got 3mm and 4mm beads there. So I've got a 3, a 4 and a 3. Just been trying different sizes to see what fits. And it's entirely up to you what you do. I'm just trying to find the right combination of beads. My 2mm ones seemed a little bit small. My 3 are a little bit big, so I reckon I'm going to put a 2mm each side of that 4 and see if that fits. So I've settled on a little string of 2mm like seed beads, and I've popped 5 on there and I've posted them through to the back. I just thought that finishes it off at the top because we've got quite a gap. So then when the wires come through to the front, I'm going to pop the wire through the outer weave. I'm holding the beads in place at the front there. I'll pull that down. Do the same with this side, holding it in place at the front. Our job here today is nearly complete. Make sure they're sat how you want them to be. That's quite different. I think I like that. Then I think I'm just going to wrap around the single wire a few times to finish them off on both sides. So I've gone around that weave and then I've gone around the single wire on both sides, and I'll cut those, and then I just need to oxidize it, and I shall pop back and show you. So there we have it, finished. I've oxidised mine. If you'd like to oxidise yours, I did a video on oxidising and aftercare. I'll put a link in the description below. I really love how that finished off with those wires at the top there. Well, I hope you managed to watch to the end, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.